And congratulations to the Call of Duty World Champions. What's going on, guys? Jay Hoyt back with you today. Welcome back to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. We are here with the CDL 2024 CDL Champs Predictions, and we got some interesting storylines heading into this event. Obviously down to 8 teams now, so 4 got eliminated. But today we have the bracket, we have our predictions, and it should be a big one. Let's get right into it and see how this all unfolds. So here we are. We're not going to go on the top, top or bottom right. We're going to be right in the middle, because why not? There's a nice little space here. And this is how the bracket looks starting off the tournament, right? This is the top 8 teams of the year. So I believe it is the 1 versus 8 seed. Is it 3 versus 6? And then at the bottom, it's 2 versus 7. And then 3 versus... No, 3 would be 6. And then 4 and 5 would be the subliner surge. So yeah, 1 8, 4 5, 2 7, 3 6 is how it goes. So starting off with the Atlanta FaZe versus the Miami Heretics. Although Heretics did put up a fight in the last tournament, I feel like, again, this should be a pretty standard win for FaZe. However, what we've seen in the last little bit, unfortunately versus Optic, that some of those bottom teams have caught up, right? They have been playing these top teams tough. So that's something we got to look out for as we go on, that it's no longer just the top 4 teams and then everybody else after that, right? These middle 4 teams, I'll call it that, the 5th through 8th teams have caught up. They've been playing better, and of course they've had a little bit of a break to work on some stuff before champs. So Heretics, a team that could definitely upset, but this one we're going FaZe, right? Pretty confidently saying 3-0, 3-1, maybe Miami steal a map, but I feel pretty confident in the FaZe boys. The next matchup, the Subliners versus the Surge. In this one, New York has been our 4th best team pretty much all year, winning a tournament as well. Surge definitely have some upset potential on their squad, but the Subliners were, one of the better teams for a reason, right? It's champs time, our defending champs as well. I feel like Subliners, though, do come away with this one. We'll keep it close, right? 3-1, 3-2, maybe game 5, and we'll see what happens with that matchup. Our next one, the third match, I don't know about the schedule, but let's just say the third match of the day, the Ultra versus the Thieves. And this one, again, similar to the first round, is you kind of have the same thoughts, right? Ultra, one of our better teams, our 2nd best team in the regular season. Ultra have been dominant, right? They have been really good. Thieves have looked good. They've looked bad. They've looked in between. They've been kind of up and down. But what have they done since the last event, or even in last event versus now, to get themselves, ready for champs, right? That's the big thing. It doesn't matter if you win a tournament during the regular season. It matters if you win champs, right? That's the big one. That's what everybody wants to win. This one, though, we're going to go Ultra. We're going to go pretty convincing again. 3-0, 3-1 is kind of where my head's at, and they'll move on to round 2. Our last matchup of winners bracket, round number 1. I got the shirt on. They're in the background. I think it's no question who I'm going for in this one. Optic Texas should have this one pretty, I don't want to say easily, but pretty convincing over the LA Gorillas. It's one of those matchups where, Optic obviously did not have a great stage 4, right? They qualifiers, they go 1-6. They have a terrible major 4. They're out top 12, and that wasn't their stage, right? Obviously winning major 3 and then going top 12 in major 4 was a complete fluke, right? That was not their best. And when they're at their best, we saw what they could do in major 3, and they smoked Ultra. They beat FaZe. I think they beat Subliners in that one. They beat all the good teams, and then whatever happened last stage happened. But unfortunately, that's right before champs, right? If that would have happened in major 1 versus major 2, that's a little different. But that was major 4, right? Where they went major 3 win, top 12 in Major 4, and now it's Champs time. So now we got to keep remembering that we had the peak, we're dropped down big time Major 4, and now we got to get back up, right? And this is, I feel, where they're going to start in this one versus the LA Gorillas. So there's the picks in the first round, which means the phase and subliners will move on along with Optic and Ultra, and then dropping down to the elimination bracket, round number 1, Heretics and Surge, Thieves and Gorillas. So it sets up pretty good matchup there. Battle of LA and then battle of the mid-tier teams. So we move into losers bracket, round number 2. We're going to advance that a little bit, and then we'll get back to the winner's side. So this one, Heretics versus Surge. It could go either way. It could be, one-sided, but again, it kind of flip of the coin. Both teams had their moments. Both teams have upset. Both teams have looked terrible. It's so unthinkable of who could do what and who could actually, come out in this one. We do have Surge coming out in this one. I'm going to predict Game 5 because I feel like the elimination bracket will be feisty, right? They're fighting for the life in this year in Modern Warfare 3, so I feel like Surge, they're going to come out on top. It's going to be close Game 5, and they'll move on to the next round. Next matchup, Thieves versus Gorillas. And not that I want to count the Gorillas out so easily, but I feel like the Thieves always have something up their sleeve, and they have the talent there. I feel like this one should be won pretty convincingly, but again, it's the end of the year. Everyone's fighting for their life, so again, could be easy, but also more likely it's going Game 5, right? That seems to be the trend of the elimination bracket. Is it's always feisty, especially at Champs time. It's going to be a feisty one. But let's jump up to the winner's bracket. Round number 2 is going to have FaZe versus the Subliners, and then Ultra versus Optic. So FaZe Subliners, again, our top 4 teams, all 4 teams winning a tournament this year. Some more recently than the others. So New York won Major 4, Optic won Major 3, and I don't recall offhand who won which one as far as FaZe and Ultra went, without looking. But either way, we have 4 amazing teams here, and it's going to be a battle regardless. So this one, FaZe at Champs, always hard to bet against, right? This is a team that is built for the big time, that it can turn up on any day against any opponent and win, right? That is our prediction. FaZe move on to winners finals. Next matchup, Ultra versus Optic. Now, the last matchup these guys had was online, right? They didn't have a good performance, as we've talked about before. Optic losing, right? 3-0 in a whole stage that was just a mess, right? And it wasn't a good experience for Optic. So the big question for Optic is, who's going to turn up, right? Is it going to be the superstars we know, we love, and then smoked Ultra in Major 3 and absolutely looked on top of the world in that, win? Or are we going to get the guys that showed up, or I should say didn't show up from the last Major? And this one, right, as much as I want to keep them riding out hot to the winner's bracket and keep them right out to the grand finals and be like, yeah, they're going to win easily, I can't do that, right? If I'm trying to be a little bit unbiased here, I honestly think this is where Optic falls, right? Down to the elimination bracket, round 2. They just haven't showed me enough recently. I mean, yes, Major 3 was great, but I need more, right? They had to have shown me more in the last Major for me to put them in significant, the last picture of Champs, right? That's just a big thing that needed to happen that just didn't happen in the last one. But that does also spoil our next matchups with Surge versus Optic, Thieves versus Subliners. So this one, we're going to jump right down to it. Surge versus Optic, there's some rivalry there, some former teammates there, some former coaches there as well. And this one, I'm predicting Optic to win this one. I don't want to say pretty handedly, but I feel like Optic are going to finally get their groove back and finally figure out how to play again, because holy cow, Major 4 was not fun to watch. I'll just say that. But I'm predicting Optic in this one. Let's go 3-0, 3-1. Not really sure what the final score is going to be, but Optic, assuming they show up and actually want to win, they should be pretty fine. Next matchup has the LA Thieves versus the New York Subliners. And this one obviously features two pretty good teams, right? Thieves, didn't really put it together too much throughout the year, but we know what the upset potential of that team could be. But this one, though, we're going to go with a trusty pick here. We're going to go with the Subliners, coming off a win from the last tournament. They had a tough round one, but I feel like they're going to bounce back here versus the Thieves and move them on to the next round. So that does set us up with the top 4, and of course, I kind of put it that way on purpose, but it does give us our last 4, our final 4, as our top 4 in the league this year. FaZe versus Ultra coming from the winner's bracket, and then Optic versus Subliners in the elimination bracket. So we'll start with the elimination bracket, Optic versus Subliners. Assuming Optics show up to this event and fix whatever mistakes that we're making versus Major 4, I'm very confident in their ability. However, they're facing off against a New York Subliners team that has a very good track record of being the underdog that isn't really an underdog. And obviously they won last year, they won last event. Obviously they want to repeat here. It's a tough matchup, right? We're going to go a little bit of the biasy effect, but we also know the level of superstars on Optic. So we're predicting Optic in this one. We're going to go 3-1, maybe game 5 and move them on. I'm hoping they show up like they did in Major 3 and bring it, and hopefully they perform as well as we know they can. But still, there's definitely those worries there for sure. But jumping up to the winner's bracket finals, right? FaZe versus Ultra. That actually look back at this one, right? This is definitely a toss-up matchup. And if one team is going to be in the finals, I feel like it should be our best team in the league, right? And you could put either of these teams there, but there's definitely one team that was there a little bit more often than the rest, and that's going to be FaZe, right? FaZe is going to move on to the elimination, or to the grand finals. Ultra will drop down to the elimination bracket, setting up a great last 3, right? It should be, a good time in this entire event. But we need 2 teams in the finals. We got one. Let's put another. As much as I, want to put Optic there, it's a tough one, right? It's definitely a toss-up. Ultra have been amazing. Optic have had their moments of being on top and being that last team to do things. And in this one, we're going to go biasy, right? We got to, right? Optic's going to be there in the grand finals, whether they will or not. If you're looking at it realistically, they're kind of like an unknown, right? We know the skill of that team. We know what they're, what they can achieve and what they could look like in that grand finals, especially looking back to Major number 3. It's on land. I don't even know if I've really mentioned this yet. They're playing at home, basically. They're playing in the Esports Stadium at Arlington, which is basically the Optic home arena. Did I mention that yet? I don't even know if I have. But it should be a good event regardless. Obviously, who I'm going to pick. But it could be either of these teams. I feel like if I had to give a prediction over, the top 3, it's going to be pretty much these 3, right? FaZe, Ultra, Optic. You could throw Subliners in there. I wouldn't be surprised. Could there be an upset? Absolutely. But it's going to be a good event regardless, right? I'm really excited to see, what Optic's bounce back is, because if they get like double first round in here, I'm going to be very sad, right? That's going to be a really annoying thing where, you kind of take the whole weekend off to watch this amazing event, the grand finale of the year, and then your team's out and then you don't really want to watch the rest of it, right? That's kind of like the Stanley Cup playoffs when Vegas lost, still want to watch, but also it's not the same when your team's not in it. You got nothing to root for. So it should be a great event. Obviously, the top 8 teams from this year, some new teams, in this year. The LA Girls, I don't think were there last year. So it should be a good event. Optic hopefully will walk away with the championship, but again, lots of things to be worried about. But that's going to do it for today's video. If you did enjoy, hit the like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're closing in on 275 subscribers, so make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, guys, we'll see you in the next one.